Women have the power to transform this world. We can end crime and violence if we all agree to do one thing: share. Let's share our wisdom, share our time, share our talents, share our finances, but most of all, let's share our love. This is the Female Solution.
Happy Thursday. Welcome to another edition of Master Force with Mushim Sood. My name is Mushim Sood, and I am the owner and founder of Master Force and Master Force International Leadership Academy. And on this platform, we do all things inside of Know Thyself, leadership, and personal development. We have we're just completing a series of conversations with Brotha G, looking at the relationship of male and female relations in our community, particularly us, people of color, actually FBAs, Black people, melanated people, however you want to look at it. We're looking deeply into that conversation. I just want to remind everyone that tomorrow's full moon in Scorpio is going to have us feeling some kind of way. So just pay attention to that. But in the meantime, let's bring Brotha G on so we can get back to the Afromance. All right. How's it going, Brotha G?
Hey, Mood. How you doing there today?
I am wonderful. Thank you so much for continuing this deep. I mean, I've never went this deep into an overstanding of something. So the fact that you've taken your time to research and study and share this with us, I think is just absolutely amazing. Well, so tell people a little bit about yourself, a little bit about what we've been talking about, and then we'll jump into the continuation of this dialogue.
Excellent. Oh, the book is called Afromance. This is a book that is on a different level than most people have ever seen, because what it does is it traces the actual beginnings of human evolution going up through the classic civilizations. And I focus a lot on ancient Kemet, because ancient Kemet actually fossilized a lot of the things that were evolved through us. And they fossilized that, and they made that actually into very, very foundational things about ancient Kemet. I'll get into that a little bit, and then I come into us African American people, and the clues and the all the information really points to the fact that what African American people have been through here, it put us into a situation where we had to manifest the type of things that those ancient evolutionary people manifested to actually be human. We actually reasserted those things in order for us to survive. This is the key to how we survive. The reason why African American people survive, I'm not talking about any other culture but us here in the United States, is because we had to draw upon those ancient evolutionary things that transformed us from monkey primate type of people into full-fledged human beings.
Yeah, and this is where you hear certain cultures talk about us participating in ancestral worship. It's our DNA. Our ancestors are in our DNA. It doesn't have to be worship. It's part of who we are, who we be. And our acknowledgement of that is a reminder of what we're here for. And unfortunately, many of us have started worshiping other cultures in their right, their DNA and the people that they are. Okay, so I think it's important that we actually embrace our history and where we've come from. So thank you.
Well, that's a very good point. But that type of knowledge is just like any other type of knowledge, including like medical and health knowledge. You embrace what you've been shown. And if you don't understand medical knowledge, if you don't understand how the body reacts to certain things, if you don't understand even down to the timing of when and where you should eat something, which is much more pronounced with women, because women are the carriers of life. So if you don't understand those things, then people can pull the wool over your face all the time and make you, try to go over it with their so-called empowerment protocol.
Well, they're doing it already. Look at the way that we've handled birth with Black women, telling them that they have to have C-sections, with just the most disruptive spiritual act that you can do with a human coming onto this planet.
Yeah, and tell them that it's invalid for you to have a social childbirth, which is the hallmark of not only Black women and women everywhere, but it's the hallmark of how human beings evolve. Social childbirth.
Yes.
People call it, they give it different names, midwifery or whatever.
But I had my last child with my friends, my husband, everybody was around.
It's a social childbirth.
Small circle.
Yeah, social childbirth is the actual origin of all human life, because most people don't know this, but other primates, and we're part of the primate lineage, gorillas, chimpanzees, all these type of creatures, when they give birth, the baby just slides right out into the mother's hands.
Wow.
Right? Their whole situation is different from ours.
Yes.
Right? We have to have social childbirth because of the situation with walking upright. In order to walk upright, your hips have to narrow, right? But at the same time, at the exact same time when we were learning to get into walking upright, our heads, the baby's head started growing because the brain started growing at the same time. So you have a real interesting situation, and anybody that has studied this, they know that the baby goes through a type of a twisting type of thing as it comes out of the woman's womb. Mm-hmm. And if you do not have somebody there to help you with that twist, if you don't have somebody there to help you with that twist, then it's very likely that the woman's and the baby's life.
It's the shoulders, yes. Mm-hmm.
The shoulders, exactly. Yeah. So, unlike these other primates who can do it by themselves, it's very common for a female primate to go out by herself, and come back with a baby. That's not that is not common with the woman, with the human woman. That's not common. Right. So you can extrapolate everything from that. Everything with human beings is social. If you're not social, every iota of how we were made was made for sharing and sociality. Every single piece of us, particularly African people, was made that way.
Well, Stacy is saying good morning to us. And she said, science tells us that we carry at least 6 to 10 generations back in our DNA.
She's very right about that. Mm-hmm. And we carry a whole lot more when it comes to bloodline. There are bloodline things that happen with us that are very, very different from other people. That's way outside the line of this conversation, but I want to get down to something very quick that I did not clarify enough on the last few times that we were on. We're talking about the chemical signals. We're talking about hexadecanol, which comes from babies. It is a chemical signal that comes off the head of the babies and the baby poop, and it's designed to make whatever male are around, make them calm, and it hypes up the females to protect the babies. That's what it's designed to do, and it's designed to stop us from the infanticide baseline that we came from. So that's one thing that comes from the children, right? From a child. Second thing is you got androstenone. Androstenone is a derivative of testosterone, and when it comes from a man's sweat, when a man sweats, this androstenone comes, and it's mostly in your apocrine glands. Your apocrine glands are under your arms. They're around your groin. Sometimes they're around your nipples, and sometimes around your head, particularly women. And when women smell a man's androstenone, it has been scientifically proven to make women generous and to make women calm. It has a few other smaller type of things too, but it does that for the most part. And there's a third, chemical signal, and this is called EST, or estrotestosterone. Estrotestosterone is the gold standard of all this, what we're talking about, because estrotestosterone is created by having the androstenome of a man being breathed into or absorbed through the skin of a woman's body through sexuality, right? This is a male thing that makes you do what I just said it makes you do. Then once it goes into your body, androstenone gets absorbed by a woman's ovaries. This is not science fiction. This is a basic structure of the way human beings are created. Androstenone from a man gets absorbed by a woman's ovaries, and it gets combined with the woman's estrogenics, and it comes out as something called estrotestosterone. Estrotestosterone comes out of a woman's body, her sweat glands, or her apocrine glands. And when a man smells, when he inhales, or when the estrotestosterone gets on his body, gets absorbed through his skin, through sexuality, or through smelling, it makes a man act like Barry White. What am I saying? It makes a man want to get with you, but makes him want to do it in a civilized way. It also makes a man want to get along with other men. It's a thing that makes him not fight. And the third thing that estrotestosterone does, if a man is at all creative, it makes a man want to create things in terms of how it can manifest for the community and not for his own pocket. So these are, and the final thing that everybody should know about this is Black human beings create 2 to 3 times the amount of these chemical signals than any other race of people do in the world. So what I'm saying is, we think that we are all verbal communications. We're verbal communications people. We are probably about 30 to 40% chemically aligned for communication, and that's one of the hidden things that's a part of our problems these days. We were designed to be close to each other way more than any other group of people in the world. We were designed to do that. So what I just described to you is an evolutionary foundation of all humanity's ability to transform from a violent ape into a full-fledged human being, and we know how to actually boost these things up.
That was the thought that came to me when you were speaking, that the whole setup of 2020, the whole lockdown and separation, started a rift in our community, particularly our community, because that social aspect was interrupted. So I think now we can see the turnout from that a lot more than what we are actually the explanation of that and how it's turned out. That makes more sense now.
Yeah, well, we're going to have to re-incentivize us to come from in front of these screens and come from and come back into each other's presence and into each other's spaces. One of the technologies that we had, y'all, okay, you and I are old enough to remember these, when people used to slow dance. Slow dance was a way for people, particularly us people, Black people, under the type of pressures that we're under. We did not know this. We didn't understand it, but we lived it. You would come together, right? And when men and women would slow dance, these chemical signals, right, would be transferred to each other. What am I saying? I'm saying that people who are engaged with each other on that level, that's a whole nother level of communion and communication. And it's actually an exchange of sexuality also, without having sex. It's an exchange of sexuality without having sex.
It's the intimacy that's there.
It's an intimacy there without having sex. And what that does is, what it means is, human beings are used to and primed to be with each other. And when you take that away, you get confusion. Right? Remember what I just told you that happens when people smell these chemical signals. If you do not smell those chemical signals, you're prone to act like the prior incarnation of the apes where we came from, right? So you have to have that, and that's what the Ankh is, y'all. When you see the Ankh in the Kemetic symbols, where they're holding the Ankh to the nose, this is what that Ankh symbol is actually the symbol of us. I'm ready to go through the slides whenever you want.
Yeah, let's go. So let's talk about the intimacy baseline hypothesis. So this is another deep dive into the Afromance. Go ahead and continue with this conversation.
This is probably one of the flagship hypotheses that I came up with while I was doing the research for Afromance. The intimacy baseline hypothesis. There's a baseline that all human beings, but particularly Black human beings, must experience. If you do not experience this baseline, right, then you will not be able to continue on as the advanced human beings that we're supposed to continue on. Okay, go to the next slide there.
Okay.
So this will show us the reason why this came about. I described this before. The violent ape baseline. This is where we come from. All right, we came from this type of creature, and the reason why you know that we came from this type of creature is based on constraint logic. Constraint logic means that, you know, I can ask you where you were born. I don't have to ask you if you were born, because we know that you were born. All right, that's an example of constraint logic. So constraint logic tells us that if these chemical signals that I just talked about, if they work the way that they work, and there are other creatures who are related to us who act like this, you know, this ape baseline, it tells us that we were gifted with these chemical signals to bring us up, so we will not act like this. So this baseline was violence. People, you know, the creatures that we were, the early primates, they would kill babies. The males would kill the babies in order to project their bloodline, and the females would kill other females' babies in order to secure resources for their own baby. That's right, y'all. It is a part of female baseline to want to feed your own babies and feather your own nest, create your own thing, and to not care about other people as long as you got yours, right? And that's what these chemicals were designed to make us not act like that. And so we had to actually go over that, because we have babies with the big heads, and we have to take care of those babies for a long time. So we can go to the next slide. So designing the guardian. So these are all the things that have to take place if we're going to overcome being a baseline ape, right? I'm not going to go through all of them, because I want to go through, so y'all can just replay this back and read all of those and get a deeper dive of. But those are all of the factors that have to come into play in order for us to not revert back to an ape-like status. To the next one. Remember when I said that the babies were born among the lower apes? They're born just, the females cannot hand off those babies because of what I told you, because of infanticide. If you give your baby as an ape, as a gorilla, or a chimpanzee or baboon, if you give your baby to another creature, another, you know, one of your kind, it's very likely that they will kill that baby, right? So with human beings, though, according to the research that I've done and many other people have done, it is very common for a newborn baby to actually be taken care of through the hands of up to 16 people, right? Sometimes up to 16 people. Most of the time it's like a dozen, meaning that after a woman has that child, she does not have to take care of that child by herself. She has a whole village. When y'all heard that it takes a village, well, this is where the village begins. The village begins with a baby who has gone through 9 months of going through what y'all know you go through, not having to take that total burden of that baby upon yourself. And so when that happens, the hexadecanol that makes people peaceful, that gets passed along with the baby. So we get paid by the babies for taking care of them with peace, y'all. Right?
I love how you say that the babies give us the peace because we take care of them, because we can smell the essence of their body, and it goes into us and makes us more peaceful.
That is the foundational thing of being a human being. Babies were designed to give us that, so we will not be violent people. So you can just extrapolate what that means if you live your life and you never smell a baby. Okay. Just think about what that means. All right, here's the chemical regulation here. This is what the hexadecanol does. It's over to the left side. It suppresses the amygdala, and it makes it so that you can get protective, right? So on the other side, this is the EST and the androstenone. This tells you what those things do. All right, you see the little thing at the bottom there with the man and female with the hand together with the heart between them.
Mm-hmm.
Y'all, love does not begin with a ideal that you've met your ideal person and you've met your soulmate. That's not how human love is designed. Human love is designed when men and women get together, regardless of status, regardless of any other of these social things that we're used to. Human love is based on the exchange of estradiol and A&D. And if you get all these other things that you think you're supposed to have, a Ferrari, a BBL with your women, all that kind of stuff, that's not love, right? That can block the estradiol and the A&D, because if you're chasing those things, and you have all this tension in your body because you're chasing those things, right? And poisoning yourself with that.
Yep.
If you do that, it can actually block the estradiol and the A&D. And what you're doing is making yourself more like a monkey, not less like a monkey when you do that. So let's go to the next slide.
So you're saying the culture of materialism is what squashes love totally then?
It destroys your ability to be a connected human being.
Yeah, your authenticity is gone. Yeah,
right, and it destroys those very chemical signals that God, nature, whatever gave us to make us not act like apes.
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
So then you got the environmental microbial buffer, and this is a big one, y'all. This is one of the foundations of why it is that we are human beings. The human vagina was designed, right? Because over evolutionary time, millions of years, and about 300,000 years since we've been, what you call modern human beings. I'm answering a question that people have had in the back of their mind, but most people have been afraid to address it. If we are inundated with all of these STDs or STIs or in all these things, well, why did these things not wipe us out, and coming up during the evolutionary times? It didn't wipe us out because of what I have right there. It's the vaginal moat. The vaginal moat, the human vagina has certain acidicness to it that's designed to take regular bacteria that you would come in contact with and destroy that bacteria and keep it from transforming into a monster. And what am I saying? I'm saying that it is common for the type of diseases that we know of now as STIs to exist, right? But it is not common for them to have the type of power, the overwhelming force that they have now. That's not common. That's not normal. That's not something that was created by God. Those things come from the earth. They come from the soil. They're part of the whole universal thing. And God or nature, whatever you want to call it, in its esteemed wisdom, said, okay, the major thing that's going to happen is these type of bacteria and things like that can be transferred during sex, because we're talking about millions of years where you didn't have the hygiene that we have now. You didn't have the type of discernment that we have now. So the woman's vagina, hear this clearly, according to real science, a woman's vagina is the place that's designed to clean everything. It cleans the penises of men. It's self-cleaning in and of itself for the woman. And it's designed to create a clean environment for a baby to be born in. And what I have here, the microbial buffer is by coming into contact with soil, women working the soil, men working the soil, these bacteria that I'm telling you about, they constantly get bombarded in the human body. And the vagina deals with those things constantly and makes it so that you can have a regular, normal sex life without those things coming upon you and turn into monsters. The reason why those things turn into monsters, right, is because when you get those diseases and then you use your genitalia in ways that the vaginal moat cannot buffer. If your vaginal moat cannot buffer, if you get these low-level bacteria, all right, and then you stick your genitalia somewhere where the vaginal moat cannot do its job, that means that the disease, which now it was just a bother, now it can transform into a monster, okay, and now come back and get you, and now you got to take antibiotics, you got to do all these things. And this, I just told you the reason why that STDs and STIs, whatever you want to call them, did not wipe out the human race. And that's because the human vagina under normal circumstances was designed to actually handle it. It's a beautiful, wonderful thing about women, that it is a guardian type of thing. And no other primate is like this, y'all. You have to understand what I'm saying. If you look at my work, no other primates are like this. The only primates that have this are us. We're the only primates that have this. We go to the next slide, and this will tell you why.
And you know, to add to that, one of my favorite authors, Louise Hay, she wrote a book called The Power Within You. And when she wrote it years ago, she spoke about how you can literally, if it's not time for you to have a child, or you got pregnant out of incest or rape or something like that, you can tell your womb to release the child. And then, you know, they don't want us to know that. And that's why abortion became such a huge conversation, because they're doing different things with the fetuses, including putting them in the makeup and food and all of that. But the body, the vagina is designed to release itself, release all disease and unwanted pregnancies as well. So that's, you know, that's something that we need to bring back into the fold of understanding about our bodies.
Go to the next slide, and I want to tell you the science behind that.
Yeah.
Right. So this is the unified intimacy baseline, y'all. Okay. At the top, you got the loop of the Ankh. This is where the vaginal moat comes from, and where the microbiome manufacturing, that's the plant that keeps you safe. That's designed to keep human beings safe. Right. I want to express this very clearly once again, so nobody will, you know, have any type of confusion about this. Without the female vagina keeping people safe, you would not have human beings. We would not be here. We'd be wiped out. It has the female vagina is designed to do two things that cannot be duplicated in any other context. You have to, it keeps you safe from those diseases, and it also creates a facility for safe childbirth of a baby. So all of this stuff that they're talking about, you know, when they try to tell you that, and so what am I saying? That is the essence of being a woman, right? That's the essence of being a woman, and it is not a philosophical thing. It's not a feeling based thing, all right? If you're not engaged in this type of thing right here that I'm talking about, if that's not going on in your body, then you're not a woman. I don't care what people say. That's what women were designed for. There's the crossbar right there that represents the men and women, you know, exchanging those, the EST and AND. And then at the bottom right there, that represents the stem. That's the baby giving off those chemical signals that pacifies everything. If we go to the next slide. Here's what happened, y'all. During the Neolithic era, when people started farming and doing all kinds of other things too, all right, what happened was you now have a system where the female's body is not able to do its job, and the chemical signals were degraded. So what happened? Touch got privatized, all right? Intimacy became gated behind a strict, exclusive, idealized pairing. That means that people have the idea that the highest level of men and women has to be gated behind what we call regular marriage or monogamy and all that kind of stuff. That's not the case. The second thing is the sensory dropout, where we eradicated the communal and the horizontal bridge of the EST and the AND, right? That means that people are not coming together the way that they used to. And then you got the microbial disconnection, and that's we're not close to the earth anymore. And remember what I said, being close to the earth is what sets off the vagina to have the strength to do what it needs to do. Let's go to the next slide.
Okay. Well, before we go to the next slide, what I'd like to do is for us to take a short commercial break. This is some really heavy duty stuff. Let's breathe through it a minute. We'll come right back.
All right.
What's up, guys? It's Osada, the host of the Gathering of the Griots podcast, part of the Female Solution. Want you to join us every Tuesday morning from 7 a.m. to 8 a.m. And guess what we do? We interview authors of the Soulful Chicago Book Fair. The books, the experiences, the lifestyles, all of it with fervor. So be there right on the Soulful Chicago Book Fair YouTube page or on the Female Solution Facebook page. We look forward to having you and all our literary essence. Peace.
Wonderful. Thank you. I love me some Asada.
Me too.
Yeah. I'm telling you, she does a wonderful job with the Soulful Book Fair. Now, when we're having this level of conversation, have you taught this at a university or a college setting? Because this is revolutionary right now.
What I'm going to do is I'm going to teach other people to teach it.
Yes.
I have other things that I need to be doing. In fact, this is my last go round with this type of thing. I'm not going to make any more books like this. There's other things that I have to get to. But yeah, my friend I was telling you about, he actually wants to start a sort of like a study group around this.
Excellent. Yeah, excellent. Okay. So let's move on to diagnosing the shift.
Here's what happened, y'all. The African guardian niche, that's who we are at our baseline, y'all. What these chemical signals and the way the woman's body is created and stuff like that, it was designed to make us rise above being a lower ape into a guardian. That's what we are. We're supposed to be guardians. And during the ancestor ratio, in other words, there are people right now that can study people's DNA, and they found out that throughout history, you have double the amount of female ancestors than you do male ancestors.
Oh.
And one of the things that they don't talk about with this, okay, this obviously means that women were editing men out. The reason why you have double the amount of females is because the female traits were passed on more than the male traits. That's normal. And that comes from something called cryptic female choice. Cryptic female choice says, all right, we're going to have sex with these men, right? And we're going to pacify them all with sex. But the choice that Mushim Tzu was talking about, where the woman's body decides whether or not the life is going to go on, that takes place. And so what it does is it edits out the sociopaths. It edits out the sociopathical thing. And that's what I want people to really understand this. One of the major reasons why we're not still lower apes is because of cryptic female choice. It's the choice that Mushim Tzu was talking about, where a woman's body, the female body, was designed to do on the inside of her body what the lower primates do on the outside of the body with their muscles and with violence. So the male apes, they make sure that their lineage is going to go on by destroying the life of the rivals' babies, okay, and taking control of the female so that no other male has sex with them but him. That's how he makes sure that his lineage is going on. It's a natural thing that apes do, and we used to do it too in the early evolutionary, but we could not become human beings if we stayed that way. And that's the reason why you got the vaginal mode, you got all these chemical signals. It was designed to raise us up from that. So once the ownership niche started, this is what they found out, y'all. Sometime around the Neolithic era, around 10,000, 5,000 BC, in Europe, not Africa, but in Europe and in Asia, men, violent, horrible men, monster, sociopathical men took over, and they would monopolize They have actually done the genetic studies among these people, right? It will tell you that during that time, it was common for one man to take control of 17 women. 17 women, right? And what that would do is that would block out other men, of course, from having access. And men who do not have access, particularly those type of people I'm talking about, they go to war, right? They become violent apes. Remember, I just told y'all the baseline where we came from was a violent ape, right? If you do not have the chemical signals, you'll get something like that. But if you don't have the chemical signals the way we have it, and on top of that, somebody's monopolizing all the women, oh, you're talking about big time war, violence. You got all that kind of stuff that's going on, right? Because you're not getting women in, you're not getting sex input. You don't have sexual access and mating access on bottom line. But then on top of that, you're not getting any of the estrotestosterone from women that makes you into a civilized human being. So
now, is that where pimping came from? Is that the whole pimping regimen being created? 17.
Pimping is nothing but some men of color who named it that, who basically are mimicking this way of life.
Yeah,
that's what that represents. They're mimicking their way of life. But here's the very interesting thing. All right, here's how pimping works. This is how pimping works into all of this. Right, pimping is a form of control of those men. Here's how it works. You have high status, powerful men who take control of a bunch of women. They control your sexual access to these women. It's a way for the higher elite people to take control of the lower elite people, right? The lower elite people. I mean, not the elite people, but the lower people. You take control of that. You have a pimp. You have somebody that says you're not going to have access. You're not going to. There's not enough women that we're letting loose for you to be married, for you to have a real legitimate mate. We control these women over here. So that means if you want to have sex at all, you got to come to us. And then there's going to be certain things that you're going to have to do to get to these women. So pimping is another expression of this 17-to-1 monopoly thing. That's what it is. And it's a sign that you're dealing with something, a horrible thing in the situation. Absolutely. So now you got idealized deprivation spiral, y'all. Here it is. I won't settle for less than the ideal. So if you say that you won't settle for less than the ideal partner, that means that that somebody touching you. Remember, I just said that unless you have the basic touch as a baby, and then that basic touch has to go on as a grown person or a growing person. Thus, the slow dance tradition in the Black culture, right? You have to have that touch regardless. You have to have that touch and that sex, regardless whether or not you've got the ideal person or not. Blow that up a little bit more.
So, yeah.
What happens is the individual now rejects the baseline. That means that all right, I can't find this ideal person. I'm not going to have anybody touch me or be intimate with anybody. Okay, if I can't have that. And so now the pro-social bath that began when you were a baby, when all those hands were touching you, right? That has to go on socially, where you're being touched by other people. The slow dance thing is really the greatest American expression of this. And then you got sensory dropout, right? So now you spent so much time on the ideal, you're fantasizing about your ideal person. You will not let anybody else touch you or be intimate with you because you're saying, I refuse to settle. So that causes a sensory dropout, right? But once that sensory dropout happens, brothers and sisters, if you have been used to being touched as a baby, right? Let's say your parents touched you and held you and stuff like that as a child, and now you're in your teenage and your adult years, and now your touch and to a great extent your sexuality is gated behind idealism. And so we don't understand that is a gateway to depression and other very, very bad things that happen to human beings. In other words, what I'm saying is, if that doesn't happen, then you get to regression, right? You literally, people actually, this is scientific information. This is not my speculation about this. If you live a long time without being touched, and if you're grown, if you live a long time without having sex, you will regress to the violent ape prior system, right? In other words, the idealization that we have now about, you know, you got to find your soulmate and all that kind of stuff, that's new, and that's only been created to idealize monogamy, right? That is designed to make you not want to seek out anything except for behind the monogamy gate, which men created for you as women, but it wasn't created for them. Remember that 17-to-1 thing I showed you there? That is how men in the Western world function. They will tell you as a woman that all of your goodies or whatever has to be gated to me, you know, as the idealized partner, but I'm going to have sex with as many women as I want to because I'm in power, right? So then so now you have a situation where you have men and women both kind of like putting that on each other. And so now you have people, it is a birth plummet. It is a sex drought all over the Western world. Why? Because people are gated, right? They're using these sex toys, they're using porn, and they're using idealization, and they're sitting around saying, okay, I'm going to do this until I find this idealized person, right? So you use these artificial things to take the place of what you know your body needs. You know your body needs it, that's why you're doing it. But you're stopping yourself from having a normal human expression that we were designed to do. And so if you do that for a certain amount of time, actually what you're doing is you're leaking the very life force out of you that's designed to make us human and designed to make us want to live.
Now, and I think that we would have to have a separate, deeper conversation, because some of us chose celibacy at a different level, and not because of the mating wasn't there or anything like that, but some of us have a different path. How do you relate to that inside of this theory?
As long as it doesn't get to starvation.
Starvation?
As long as it doesn't get whatever you decide to do, no matter what it is, you can go on a fast. You can go on what they call a walkabout, where you're going by yourself, you're just out in the wilderness. You can do all this stuff. But when you get to the point where you're starting to starve yourself of these elements that I'm telling you about, if you're getting to the point where you're starting to starve yourself of these things, right? The human body, let's make this very explicit. At a certain point, to be complete, you have to inhale androstenone. You have to. If you do not inhale androstenone, the thing that androstenone was designed to make happen to a woman, the opposite of that will start happening to you. The opposite of that. If you are a man, you're designed to inhale estrotestanol. If you do not, under normal circumstances, inhale estrotestanol, right, then you will be starved of those chemical signals, right? So there's only a certain amount of time that you can do this, where you will start to have starvation things that will happen to you. And because of the way the Western world is structured, it makes you think that what you're going through is not starvation, when that's really what it is. That's really what it is. It is starvation. You have to have these things going on to a certain extent. And
I think it shuts down our ability to receive. It's like we're no longer receptive inside of that conversation of intimacy. And if we're not open to receiving, then imagine if any blessings are trying to flow to us, we're blocking those as well.
Let me make this clear, y'all, so nobody will misunderstand me. I fast myself, and I have been celibate at certain times myself. It's a great thing to do to clear out certain things in your system. you can't have a lifestyle like that.
Mm-hmm.
You can't develop a lifestyle like that, because if you develop a lifestyle like that, then you have a whole bunch of people who are walking around without the estrotestosterone, without the androstenone working, and also without the hexadecanol working. If those things are not going on, then you don't have babies, right? If you don't
Which
have
is what we're
babies,
experiencing in society right now. Right.
And if you don't have babies, nobody's smelling the hexadecanol, and then everybody's assholes.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody is now, jumping down each other's throats, because the things that make you not act like a primate, not act like an ape, an infanticidal, violent ape, these things are not in motion anymore. And now you're talking about a downward spiral, which is what we're going through right now.
Yeah.
This will give you a clue as to why it is. This is a hard scientific explanation for what I'm talking about. A couple years ago, 2016, they talked about it, but they talked about it much more since. A man, we're not talking about the female aspect of things here now, but a man must have a 21 ejaculations every month. If you don't, as a man, have 21 ejaculations every month, okay, what will happen to you is it will set you up for cancer, for prostate cancer, right? The fluid can back up in your body, and when that fluid backs up in your body, it can start to decay. Understand what I'm talking about? The fluid can back up in your body as a man, and it can decay, and it greatly enhances your whole thing of whether or not you're going to be susceptible to prostate cancer. There are other things also. So this tells you that from a male perspective, it tells you need to be having sex. You need to be having sex. That's what this is telling.
So why so many men are so desperate around that conversation is because
that is the reason why it is. Remember what we just gone through, y'all. If male creatures do not get sex, then we get violent. Everybody in the world who has ever done imperialism and went around the world conquering and taking other people's lands, which they use men to do this, they always unofficially set up brothels. Always. It has never been in any other case in anywhere around the world. You send a bunch of men to go and conquer territory, then somebody will set up a brothel, which the powers that be will unofficially back. Why? Because they know if you send a bunch of men that you train them to be violent, which ups their testosterone. If they don't have any sexual outlet, they will rape each other and kill each other in droves. So you have to do that. We're not talking about the ideal of what people want to be in the world and what we want to establish as a regular baseline for humanity. We're talking about the way human beings, monks and nuns.
Yeah, what about monks and nuns?
They're cooked. If you do a study of people, of anybody that lives like that, they have huge amounts of the lower ape things coming through their situation. No matter who that is, they will always manifest. They don't have the estrotestosterone and the EST and the androstenone floating, and nobody's smelling any babies, y'all. What I just told y'all, I mean, it's very, very hard for people to understand, right? But what I just told y'all, these things are baseline for humanity, the same way good nutrition is. You can live without good nutrition. You'll be sick and you'll have all kinds of things wrong with you, but you will seem to be alive and functioning, right? If you don't have good nutrition, you'll seem to be alive. You'll seem to be, if you know how to mask it good, you'll be able to see it seems like you're doing okay, which you are not doing okay. And you will manifest very bad things. Yes, rape of males happens in prison. All of that has to do with that. So let's go to what happens here. This is what happens when all this stuff starts to break down. All right. No fertility. All right. Sub replacement, the solo trap. Okay. You're privatizing the dozen hands into the isolated nuclear nuclear family hands now, right? Where now you're promoting, two people should be everything to everybody, and they should be also everything to their children too. That's impossible. That's never been a possibility of human beings to act like that. And so it turns into fragile situation and a fragile ecosystem too. We're messing up our soil. It's not common for the common human being in the Western world to walk on soil that's good for their microbiome. That's not, it's poisonous now. So intimacy is a public health infrastructure, y'all. This is what it all comes down to. Intimacy is a public health infrastructure. You got to breathe in that estrotestosterone and the A&D. You got to have touch, and you got to have the peace that comes from that. Human stability is depending on these things. So people are now like going online, having these discussions. Oh, men are like this, women are like this, we're like this, we're like that. Well, guess what? If we're not around each other the way that we used to do, particularly African people of African descent and African American people, we have to be around each other. If y'all watch Soul Train, if you have people who are too young to have experienced it, go look at Soul Train and you see those men and women slow dancing. You see them dancing with each other. If you know anything about traditional, African American, what I call soul culture, which is
and stepping and all of that, exactly.
Yeah, all that. It's designed for people to breathe in those things and to have that touch. You have to have the touch, whether you have sex or not. Eventually, you got to have sex now. But on a baseline, you better have that touch, okay? And you better be breathing those chemical signals, particularly when you're young, when your whole body and your nervous system is getting set up. You have to have that. So we're very queasy about this, y'all, right? This is going to be controversial. Nobody's going to like it. You have to let your teenagers come together, right? You have to let them socialize. And eventually, when they get into the later parts of their teens, you have to let them have sex. If you do not let them have sex, right, what is going to happen is they're not going to set themselves up. Because traditionally, y'all, people, according to where we come from, and in Africa right now, most of the time today, when you start your menstrual cycles, that's when you go through your rites of passage. And within about a year or two of that, you are either married or you are having sex. And that's the way it's supposed to be. That's the way these chemical signals were designed. They were not designed to operate by our current point of view about how we think, the social order should go. Because the social order is being broken down now because we think that these things are working and they're not.
Well, that's very, very interesting because I know in a lot of the traditional African villages, usually when a young lady is 14, 15, they can have their own business, their own families, their own, the whole portal is open at that age. But here, we don't teach that. And one
of the reasons is because they don't do it alone. In Africa, everything is communal. No matter what you do in Africa, there's no such thing like the average enterprising Black woman here in the Western world, they go in it alone.
Yeah.
Right. They don't have the amount of help that they're supposed to have, particularly if they have children. So it becomes a burden upon them, and they think that it is the natural order. It is not the natural order for human beings to be solo on anything. There's nothing in the world that human beings are supposed to be solo on. That's a misnomer, and it makes people not want to participate in life, not want to have kids, not want to have sex, not want to have relationships. Everybody's hating each other. I can't stand this sister. So there's no sisterhood. You got all that stuff. All of that is based on individualism and not getting enough of these chemical signals.
Wow. Yeah, it's a lot to learn here. And then where do we go from here, Brother G? How do we? So you said there's going to be discussion groups. Are you going to get back to us and let us know how we can participate in that?
First of all, read Afromance, y'all.
Yeah. So where do they go? Where do they go? Is there a website? Where do they go to get Afromance?
I will send you a link.
Okay.
And then you can put the link up. and they can actually go and read the first 4 chapters of Afromance for free.
Okay.
Right? And then you can, purchase the rest of it. It's an online MPP. That means it is a enhanced version of an ebook that you'll be able to click through and go to all kinds of multimedia things that have to do.
All kinds of multimedia. It's one of the most amazing systems, right? It's a book system, a learning system. It's a whole curriculum, actually.
That's what it is, because that's what we are. African American people, we're the original. We are, by bloodline, we come from the original people, but by coping, we had to exhibit the same type of things that allowed primates to evolve into higher humans. And you'll see that process if you read the Afromance book.
Yeah. We actually are very behind in understanding or even appreciating that as the original people, we bring a lot more to the planet than what we actually are providing, because we don't know ourselves. And this part of this study is to actually gain more strength and understanding and appreciation for who we are, so we can live that.
Right. And the final thing, Afromance, what makes Afromance such a breakthrough is not because I'm such a smart guy. It's not because this information has not been there. It's because I had the guts to actually bring up the things about the foundation of our sexuality. Our sexuality is the foundation of our history and our civilization. And if you do not know the foundation of human sexuality, then all this other stuff that you're learning you're not going to understand it. You won't understand why the Ankh is being put to the nose of people among ancient Kemet.
Right. Naima says people get married in their teens in earlier societies. Are these requirements to finish college before starting a family, creating dysfunctional men and women?
No, they're not. They're not. What's dysfunctional is the amount of help, the amount of community that you are supposed to have. None of that. You're supposed to be able to have those babies and then have aunties and friends and sisterhoods and brotherhoods around you, and mothers around you that will allow you to go to school. They will allow you to finish college. They will allow you to do any of that stuff. Why? Because babies were not designed to be raised by two people. They were just not. So that's the dysfunction, sister. The dysfunction is not getting enough help to do everything that a human being can do.
Yeah, being separate. Wonderful. But thank you, Brother G. I'm just totally enamored with this work. And I'm sure we'll probably have other conversations around it, because it really is intriguing and I enjoy it. And I haven't got through the full book, so I believe I'll bring you back as I dig deeper and have more questions for myself. So
I'm welcome to come back, and I thank you for having me. And I say hey to everybody, that's online checking us out. Spread the word about Afromance, because I think it's the foundation of what's going to heal us.
Yeah. And I will drop the link on the different channels as soon as you send it to me. Thank you. All right, everybody. We will see you next week. We're coming into the spring and summer of Master Force with Mushim Sud. Thank you for joining us.
Leaders of nonprofits empowering worlds. Let's go.
But the vision that God gave me, I felt that it was time for me to step out and work on the vision that God gave me.
We need look no further. We have a unique voice. We have a unique talent pool.
We've come to the end of our show today. If you missed any broadcasts, go to our website for the audio and video archives at www.thefemalesolution.com. On behalf of our team of radio hosts, I'd like to thank all of you who participated in today's discussions. And to our global family joining us from all around the world, we say thank you. To our family in China, xie xie. India, Dhanyavad. Japan, arigato. Korea, kamsamnida. Russia, spasiba. Germany, danke. Poland, dziękuję. France, merci. Spain, gracias. Italy, grazie. Egypt, shukran. Ghana, madasi. Nigeria, eshe. South Africa, Ngiyabonga. Senegal, Jaref. Kenya, Asante. Israel, Toda. Pakistan, Shukriya. Afghanistan, Tashakur. Saudi Arabia and Palestine, Shukran. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Thank you, and may peace be upon you and the mercy of God and God's blessings.